All right, here we go. Passion plus perseverance. Let me kind of dive into this topic, referring back to an author by the name of Dr. Angela Duckworth. She wrote a groundbreaking book called Grit. Many of you guys have probably read it. I'm not going to just pull content out of that book. So if you have read the book, don't think that this episode is just going to be rehashing the book. But if you haven't read the book, I highly recommend it. You can probably get it on audiobooks, listen to it in your car as you're driving around. But this is what she says: one of the best predictors of long-term success is not talent or intellect. Although these are helpful for obvious reasons. She says this: the best predictor is grit. G-R-I-T, grit. So Duckworth explains that the highly successful have a kind of fierce determination that makes them incredibly resilient, hardworking, and focused on their long-term goals. So this combination of passion and perseverance in high achievers can be described in a word: grit. So grit is the combination of passion and perseverance. So I've got 7 thoughts about passion and perseverance. Here's the first thought: what is the most important thing you could do each day? Now, this question, when you answer this question, this is aside from work-related responsibilities, okay? Obviously, the most important thing you can do every day is go to work, bring home a paycheck, take care of your family. But aside from work-related responsibilities, aside from family-related responsibilities, obviously, you've got to take care of your kids, you got to take care of your wife. But what is the most important thing you could do for yourself every day in order for you to have no regrets by the time you die? I know that sounds like so morbid, like what are we talking about here? But honestly, if you don't think about it, years will go by and you'll look back and you'll think to yourself, man, I just wasted a lot of time. I gave my life to a company that can replace me in 30 minutes. You'll find yourself being bitter. So for me personally, I know that if I do these 2 particular things every day, I'll lay my head on my pillow and I'll think that was a good day. Now, it may not have been an enjoyable day because there's other factors that come in play, but it was a good day if I'm able to do these 2 things that are for me. They're for me. They're not for my family. They're not for the organization I work for. They are for me. Now, granted, when I do these 2 things, the overflow of doing these 2 things does affect in a positive way the organization I work for, my family, my friends. But I am doing it. My primary motivation is for me. These are selfish things that I do to make myself into the person that I want to be. There's selfish things that I do to make sure that I'm enjoying this journey. Number 1 is I have got to have some time alone with God. I have to. Now, if you're not a believer, then you're not going to get a lot out of this point. But I'll just say this from a personal standpoint. I have got to have a minimum of an hour every day. Typically for me, I block off 2 hours because it's, if I catch a rhythm while I'm praying, it could go up to 2 hours. But I get frustrated if I can't pray at least an hour. Now, I was real hesitant to mention that just now because we live in a very comparative world. And you could say, my goodness, there's no way I can pray an hour, so why even pray at all? Let me say this: one of the people that I esteem the most, one of the preachers that I esteem the most, you may or may not like him, but I like him, is Joel Osteen. My wife and I used to be on staff with him and his wife at Lakewood Church. It's one of America's largest churches, and I heard him preach a message that he spends 30 minutes or less usually when he prays. So this guy's got the largest church in America. 1 million people dial into him on television every year. And a few years ago, I heard him say that he spends less than 30 minutes. Now, this was several years ago when I heard him say this personally. I don't know where he's at now. He could be at 20 minutes now. He could be at 15 minutes now. He could be at 3 hours now. He could be at 4 hours now. I don't know. But I do know that at that moment and in time, he was pastoring the largest church in America, and he was spending less than 30 minutes. So every person's relationship with God is completely different. For me, when I lay down at night and I put my head on the pillow, if I was disciplined and I bracketed off at least 2 hours to spend time with God, it was a good day. It was a good day. Number two, it has nothing to do with spirituality at all. If I can run 5 miles that day, then it was a good day. So if I spend between an hour and 2 hours a day with God and I run 5 miles, regardless of what else happens that day, it was a good day. It was a good day. That was important to me. Passion plus perseverance equals grit. I'm passionate about my time with God. I am passionate about running and exercising. And I persevere there when I don't feel like it. What I feel like doing has nothing to do with whether I do it or not. I am committed to those things. I'm committed to them. And so my question to you is, what is the most important thing you could do each day? Now, some of you may say, well, I don't have the time. Well, I'm going to cover that in a minute. Number two, to have a growth mindset. See, there's two different mindsets you can have in regards to having grit or passion or perseverance. You can have a growth mindset, or you can have a fixed mindset. Okay? People with a growth mindset intrinsically believe that hard work is the key to succeeding, and their curiosity and willingness to take risks allow them to explore different approaches and be flexible in pursuit of their goal. It's a growth mindset. It's an ownership mindset. Now, a fixed mindset, in contrast, believes that intelligence and talent are finite predictors of success. So there's no ownership there. It's kind of like a person backing up and say, I could never make a free throw because I don't have any athletic ability. I could never run a mile because I don't have any athletic ability. See, that is a fixed mindset where you're not taking any ownership. And if you don't take ownership, you don't have a growth mindset. I'll tell you, there are people that have the same goals you have or the same desires you have that have had to overcome way more than what you have to overcome to achieve your goals. Way more. So a person with growth, a growth mindset, typically they are more prone to have grit, passion, perseverance. They're more prone to that. Number three is excuses. Excuses are a funny thing. I like the way Brian Tracy said it. He goes, you can make excuses or you can make progress. You can make excuses or you can make progress. George Washington Carver said it like this: 99% of the failures come from people who have the habit of making excuses. The best excuses I've ever heard are draped with some type of self-righteousness that make the excuse ironclad. In other words, no, I didn't do that because I don't have time. I just, I've been working all day long. I'm hammered with this big project. I mean, I just don't have time to do that. That is an ironclad excuse that somebody with a vertebrae of steel would push back on. Most people just go, "Oh yeah, man, I totally understand. I totally get it." Another ironclad excuse that's draped with self-righteousness usually is linked to some family or people. Yeah, I was going to do it, but, I had to pick up my kid, had to pick up, my wife asked me to blah, 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 blah. My kids had a baseball tournament, blah, 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 blah. Here's the deal. You make time for what's most important to you. What's most important to you gets the prime time slots. And remember this, you can always wake up earlier. You can always wake up earlier. Number 4, daily routine. I think I said this in another podcast. I've got a buddy of mine. He pays, I think he told, gosh, I can't remember how much it was. It was like $40,000 a year to be a part of this small group of guys. It's like this iron sharpening iron group of businessmen. It's not a Christian organization. It's just the group of businessmen. They contribute $40,000 a year. They meet in different places on the planet, and they just inspire each other. They motivate each other. And my buddy, he came back and told me, he goes, the common denominator with all these successful people is that they have a morning routine that they will not break under any circumstances. They have a morning routine. Now, let me take a quick sidebar here. These points, these 7 points, these are things that I am conscious of, that I strive towards. Now, if you are a good friend of mine, if you live life with me, if you're in my world, you would look at me and say, "Hey, I'll be honest with you, Frankie. I can see that these 7 points are important to you. I live life with you. I see you. I watch you live. Now, as your friend, I'm going to tell you, you don't bat 1,000. You do not bat 1,000. So don't let me give you the impression, if I don't know you personally, that I bat 1,000 on these. But I am telling you that each of these 7 targets is a real target for me. It's something that I aim at. And in any area of my life that happens to be successful, any area of my life that I happen to have grit in, it's wrapped around these 7 targets. But the morning routine or the daily routine, it's easier for me to build a morning routine than it is a daily routine, because I'm a pastor, I'm in the ministry, and so there always seems to be an emergency that seems to pop up out of nowhere. But I can protect my morning routine. I can't always protect my daily schedule because, the 911 moments arise in the world of ministry. But I can protect my morning routine. I read this recently. There's a lot of people, their routine, their daily routine, not their morning routine, their daily routine sounds something like this. Each morning, you feel tired, cranky, and lazy. Each afternoon, you're just thinking about how bad you need a nap. And then every night, you lay awake and you can't sleep. And then you press repeat the next day. You feel tired, cranky, lazy. Afternoon, you want a nap. Every night, I can't sleep. And then repeat, and then repeat. But here's the thing. If the morning routine is established, if the morning routine is cut in stone, what you'll see is it sets the tenor, it sets the pace for the rest of the day. When I was talking a minute ago about how prayer and running is very important to me, I'm going to tell you, one of those things better happen in the morning. And for me, if I can pray in the morning, then I give the afternoon slot or the evening slot. Usually it's like 4 to 5 slot to the other one. That's my routine. Now, as I just mentioned, I'm in the ministry, so these 911 things come up, and so I can't always get that afternoon slot. But the morning slot, I can control that one. I can get up earlier, and I'm doing well if that morning slot is my prayer slot, because of the two of them, which one's more important to me? Which one's going to dictate my future more? It's obviously going to be prayer. But the routine, the daily routine, this is point number 4, the daily routine is critically important to setting the pace for the rest of the day. Now, I know you already know this, because if you're listening to this podcast, you're an adult. Chances are this podcast does not appeal to children. So you already know this. I'm not telling you something you don't already know. But is there a knowing-doing gap? In other words, you know what to do, but is there a gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it? If there is, this thought from Mark Twain may help you. He said this: if it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first. Now, that's something you may never, ever forget. And it's said like only Mark Twain can say it. The frog is the one thing that you have on your to-do list that you have absolutely no motivation to do, and that you're most likely to procrastinate on. Eating the frog means you just do it. Otherwise, the frog will eat you, meaning that you'll end up procrastinating it the whole entire day, and then you just roll it over to the next day, and the frog just gets bigger and bigger. But here's the thing: once that task is done, the rest of the day will be an easier ride, and you will get both momentum and the sense of accomplishment at the beginning of your day. Here's my 5th point of 7. The law of averages always wins. The law of averages always wins. Now, I know that sounds like they call it an average for a reason, Frankie, so it doesn't always win. Look, this is my podcast episode. Get your own, okay? The law of averages wins. So if you're making the right decisions, most of the time, the results you're hoping for will eventually happen. So in the midst of saying, look, I'm going to wrap my mind around this passion plus perseverance. I'm going to wrap my mind around it. I'm going to be passionate. I'm going to be full of perseverance. I'm going to have grit. But here's the deal. When you stumble, and you will stumble, when you mess up, when you're on the diet and you eat the piece of cake, just remember this: the law of averages wins. And so don't just beat yourself. Oh my gosh, I just ate this piece of cake. Now I might as well just go have another one. Oh, since I ate 2 pieces of cake, I might as well just go eat a brownie. If I just ate, and then here comes the spiral. Bang, 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 bang. And if you live in Texas, you know that Bluebell ice cream is right around the corner. And so you go find Bluebell, and then down, 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 down. When you mess up, when you stumble, just back up and say to yourself, look, the law of averages is going to win. I am doing the right thing more than I'm doing the wrong thing. Therefore, eventually, what I'm striving for, what I'm hoping for, is eventually going to manifest itself. Now, if my averages are not very good, meaning the right thing, I'm doing the right thing 3 times and I'm doing the wrong thing 2 times, well, yeah, you're still going to achieve your goals. It's just going to take a lot longer. But if you're doing the right thing 5 times, the wrong thing 1 time, man, stop beating yourself up. I mean, my goodness, you're moving along quickly. Stop kicking yourself in the rear and slap yourself on the rear and say, man, I'm doing good. I am doing good. Number 6, compete with who you were yesterday. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, competition, There's two things in life that get me fired up, and they're both really negative. I mean, I can get fired up. I get fired up when I'm around somebody who's sarcastic. Drives me nuts. I can't stand sarcasm. My personal feeling is if you have to be sarcastic in order to be funny, then do us all a favor. Don't be funny. All right. So sarcasm is a hot button for me. But here's the other hot button: comparison. Comparison is a poison. If you compare down, you get prideful and arrogant. If you compare up to somebody who's better than you, someone who's further along than you, then you get discouraged, down, and depressed. Those two things. So comparison, don't compete with anybody else. Don't look to your right, to your left to figure out how you're doing. Compete with who you were yesterday. You know, I like to run half marathons. I used to like running full marathons, but then I decided I'd only be half crazy. But nevertheless, my son, who's 11 years old, every time I finish a race, he always asks me, "Did you win?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't win. There was 20,000 runners. There was 40,000 runners. I didn't win." So then he'll ask me, "What place did you come in?" And I'll say, "Well, in my age group, I came in 3,000th place." All right. In my age group. Overall, I think I came in 14,000th place. All right. What do you think about those apples? And he just looks at me like he can't even wrap his mind around coming in 14,000th place. But here's the deal. Did I do better than I thought I would? Then it was an awesome race. All right? I don't care about the other 25,000 people. Now, if you're listening to this episode, you're thinking to yourself, duh. I mean, my goodness, you're not an elite runner. You shouldn't be comparing yourself to everybody in the field. That's a no-brainer, Frankie. Come on. Well, come on. Let's be honest with ourselves. Why are we going to compare ourselves with other people then? Is this rule only obvious in the world of running? Can't it be obvious in everything else as well? So compete with who you were yesterday. Here's my last and final point for this episode. Link your goal to a greater purpose. Sometimes it's not enough to have a compelling interest. People who connect their goal with a greater purpose, they're grittier people. In other words, you have this goal for a reason. You have this desire for a reason. Could that goal, could that desire be linked to who you were born to be? Could those desires, could those goals, can they be linked to what you were born to do? Those goals, those desires that you have, are they linked to what do you believe you are? How are you supposed to present yourself if you are at the top of your game? You see, when you link your goals and your desires to a greater purpose, man, all of a sudden you get a lot grittier. So that's really all I have to say today. I hope it motivated you. I hope it inspired you. Let me sign off saying this. Everyone is going to spend eternity somewhere. Make sure you're ready. And last, go live an outstanding life and shock the world. All right, guys, I enjoyed it. I hope you did as well. I'll talk to you next time. Ciao.